Okay, why is my scar not suitable for excision photo? Right then. So, and I can show you the scar. Here is the scar. So, I can show you both Facebook and Instagram the scar. So this is a scar on an eyebrow or crossing an eyebrow, and it's the problem with scar revision, and I think a lot of people think that plastic surgeons can get rid of scars, but sadly we can't, and no one can. So the first thing for any scar is to get it as good as it's going to get before considering revision. Now this one looks a little bit red. So I don't really know I've got another scar in a minute. I don't really know the history of either of them. I don't know how they were caused. I don't know how old they are, but it looks a little bit red. So I'm guessing it might not be that old. You'd really want it to be at least a year old. The longer the better, really, because you want it to fade as much as possible, because scars are red to start off with and then they fade over time. And so this one doesn't look like it's fully faded, number one. So you want to get it as good as it's going to get first. Sometimes people talk about laser to help scars fade. I think people talk about it a lot more than it's actually required. I think many / most scars will get better on their own. But if this one is, for instance, over a year old, then laser might be an option to try and make it less red. No one can get rid of scars. So, plastic surgeon or whatever, if anyone says they can get rid of a scar, it's not true. And anytime we do surgery, we leave scars. So if you come to me for help with your scar, I will leave you a scar, because most of the things that I do are surgical. We do non-surgical things in terms of treatment for keloid or hypertrophic scars, which are lumpy red scars where you can do steroid injections and silicone gels and pressure dressings and pressure clips and things. But this isn't a hypertrophic scar. It is red, but it's not raised and lumpy. So it's not. So most of what I do for scars is surgical. So that means creating another scar. So I've got to think can I make this scar better with a different scar? Can I do a scar that's going to be better than this scar? And I've got to be honest with you, it's tough. It's tough. The thing I would say to the person, and I know sometimes people think, obvious. We say, what's the problem with the scar? What don't you like about it? And I know sometimes people think, well, I don't like this fact there's a scar there. I don't want a scar to be that. Well, can't do anything about that. That's a no-go. If you just say, I don't like the fact there's a scar there, then, we really can't help. If there's specific things about the scar, there may be some things we can do to help. So I've got to be honest, this one, I'm not seeing anything that's really jumping out at me as something we could do to help. There's no defect in the eyebrow, which is good. So the scar is obviously crossing the eyebrow, but the eyebrow hair is covering that. It's a little bit stretched, possibly in the bit above the eyebrow, maybe a little bit of a contour deformity, a little bit dented in. Could we sort of size that and make it not so dented in? Marginal. I mean, the thing is, there'd always be a scar there. So marginal. This bit below the eyebrow, again, quite red, a little bit stretched, but it looks quite active still. So as a surgeon, I've got to think, if I actually do something surgical for that, what can I do to make it better? So you can cut it out and stitch it up, but then you're just going to give my scar instead of that scar. Might be a bit straighter, but aside from that, it's not sitting in a very good line. That when we make scars on the face, we hide them in natural lines and wrinkles and lines of relaxed skin tension, and they are going that way. So when you get a line, if you see I've got lines there, this scar is going the opposite way, so that's not great. But what can we do? It's presumably a traumatic scar. I'm assuming it's a traumatic scar. So if it's not a surgically made scar, you can't decide the orientation of the scar. You've got to just go with where it is. So this actually is not a great one for revision. So it's sadly, I don't think there's much we could do / anything we could do to make it better, unless there was a specific issue or a specific problem, like for instance, maybe if it is a bit dented in above the eyebrow. Maybe, but we'd have to be very clear on the objectives and what we could achieve if we were going to take that on for a surgical revision. I would say probably non-surgical means in terms of massaging, moisturizing. People talk about those needle roller things, derma roller, is it, and things. Non-surgical people talk about all sorts they do to try and increase the blood flow of scars. I don't know if they do anything. But my number one is time. So if that's not a year old, wait a year. If it is a year old, laser's the other thing, maybe because it's a bit red.